guys want to talk about? Welcome into episode 7 of the Main Event Mixer. I'm your host this morning. It's still morning time here in the Central Time Zone. Not all of us live in the East Coast like Mr. Cincinnati over here, but Mr. Cincinnati from the Wrestling Junkies is joining me as well. Sir, how are you doing this morning?
Well, I just paid my taxes, and my state refund was just about as much as I owed to the federal government. So, okay, I guess. I mean, it's fine. It's done.
Is that hashtag lawyer problems? Because I got a decent amount of money back from the federal government here, I gotta say.
That's just adulthood kicking a square in the. Yeah, okay.
Doesn't that suck? You know, especially when you turn 26 and you got to get off your parents' insurance. What the hell's up with that bullshit?
Yeah, it's fine. It could be worse. It's Saturday. The sun is out. I get to hang out with you. I've got a nicely cold high noon here. Let's talk some wrestling. Let's get happy here.
Damn, I didn't know we were starting already. I guess I got to go grab a drink after this.
I mean, you don't have to. It's just it is a mixer, so it's implied.
I had one margarita last night, and I'm now at that age where it's like if I have a couple drinks or a really strong drink, your boy's going to be feeling it the next morning. I'm not saying I'm hungover, but like a little fatigued.
That's fair. No, it's okay. It happens. I mean, hey, it's Saturday.
I'll tell you what, though. SummerSlam weekend in Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh, yeah, it's on.
It's a marathon. I'm going to be going at it every day with you guys. I can't wait for that. And be on the lookout, too, for the content. I know we're months away, but we're going to have to go to the think tank a little bit.
Yeah.
I think we're do some fun stuff.
Absolutely.
So, don't forget, guys, follow us on all of our socials at mainevent_net. Check out all the good stuff we got going on. Of course, Tim Vicious on YouTube every single week doing Vicious Rants. You have Scott, who reviews wrestling every single week as well. It seems like he's got a new video out every single day. And, of course, the other podcast, Last Week in Wrestling, our shows, the On the Mark Wrestling Podcast, the Wrestling Junkies, and, of course, Tino's Time, who just was a recent addition to the network. Make sure you're following us on all the socials. There you go. There's our shows down below. You guys got some exciting stuff coming up. If you want to tell the listeners a little bit about what the Junkies got coming.
Yeah, so thank you again to Shaw Mason of Absolute Intense Wrestling and Vogan from WWE 4 Academy. Joined us for a couple of interviews that we just dropped yesterday. Next week, we will be hanging out with Champagne Singh from TNA. April 26th, Action Wrestling down in Tyrone, Georgia. Mustafa Ali taking on Landon Hale. That match sponsored exclusively by the Wrestling Junkies. We're also sponsoring Zicky Dice's Outlandish Paradise over Memorial Day weekend in Atlanta. It's a good time to be a wrestling junkie. So yeah, come on board.
It's a great time to be following the Main Event Wrestling Network, especially what the Junkies are doing, cranking out content a little bit more frequently than OTM. But hey, sometimes it's not quantity over quality. I'm just saying, if you want to go head to head, I'm down to go head to head. Just kidding.
Hey, not head to head. We'll call it a double header.
Ooh. Yeah, you know what? We should start doing that, lining up our shows where somebody kicks off and it just bleeds into the next. Oh.
Yeah. See? Come on.
You got something. But hey, we got 12 people watching live right now. If you are watching, give us a like, retweet it if it's on X, share it with a friend, and join the conversation in the comments section. We'd love for you guys to interact. We're not going to hop around from topic to topic here. And I say we start with AEW. Of course, Dynamite had a lot of eyeballs on the show this week, mainly because of the released all-in footage that was to come. But I do want to talk about some positives before we get into some negatives, and that being the opening contest. The Cope Oakland continues as Adam Copeland took on Penta in what was a barn burner of a match. They went on for, I believe, 25 minutes, almost hit the time limit, but Adam Copeland was able to pick up the win. Mr. Cincinnati, I really, really enjoyed this one. I think this is the exact way that they should be using Adam Copeland in AEW.
Yeah, Cope turned the clock back about 15, 20 years on Wednesday night. I mean, he's leapfrogging. He's doing head scissor takedowns. Like, I mean, he's moving around like a guy that is not in his 50s. And yeah, no, this is absolutely the way that they should be using him. These open challenges are a great way to get him in the ring with talent that he wants to work with. And, if rivalries come from it, then great. They can always run him back. But this is a good way for him to just say, to Tony, hey, here's kind of who you got on your roster. Here's who can go. Here's who might need some fine tuning or what have you. But Copeland just seems to be having fun right now, and that's all that he's wanted for this last chapter of his career. So if this is the way we get it, then I'm here for it.
Yeah, and I love his approach to wrestling. We saw that promo 2 weeks ago. The fans started to boo when he mentioned the WWF, and he goes, no, that's not what this is about. Like, he agrees, we should all be supportive of just professional wrestling as a whole. And before we get to the negatives, I do want to preface, when we do get into the all-in footage, this is constructive criticism. I can't speak for you, but I am a fan of AEW. I'm sure you are as well.
I am.
Yeah. So
these
are just constructive criticism. We're not hating. It's just sometimes shit's not good. Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, it's no different than any other TV show. I mean, there are people that had problems with the last season or two of Game of Thrones. I don't know. That's the only show I can think of right now that had. Or How I Met Your Mother is also not. God, that ending still pisses me off to this day. It's okay to disagree with what with what it is, but we're just trying to here's what we would have done differently, or kind of just the points that we're getting across. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And there's nothing I would do differently here in this opener between Copeland and Penta. Penta's an interesting character for me, and I believe Rey Fenix is still on the shelf with an injury. Is that correct?
I think so, yeah.
But I feel like as a whole, Penta and Phoenix, yes, they've been featured in a lot of matches, but I kind of expected a little more from them, especially when they had those tag team matches with the Young Bucks. They were doing some great stuff in AEW.
Yeah, they're a team that definitely should have had, 2 or 3 more world tag team title runs. I know that, Phoenix has been on the shelf a couple of times. I think Penta had an injury himself, but I would like to see them get back into the tag team ranks. And maybe this is kind of another one of those results of the rather bloated roster that AEW has grown to have now, is that, again, not everybody's going to get time. And that's just kind of the reality of the situation. But I mean, that's, when they're there at their best, they're one of the best tag teams on the planet.
No doubt. I mean, I remember their match. I think they had it in Chicago, and I was there for it. Was that steel cage match against the Young Bucks, maybe at All Out a couple years ago? That was insane.
Phenomenal.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
So the more we see of those guys, the better for me. But before we get into actually, no, let's just get into it. Let's just do it. I was going to push it back a little bit, but let's talk about it. I know it's been talked about a lot as a whole. I even said on my personal Twitter account I was done talking about it, but I only discussed it with Ian before the show this Wednesday. So now that I have seen what they ended up revealing, I do have a few things I want to say on here. But I will go to you first. There was a lot of speculation, once they announced that they were going to go through with this segment, that it could be a bait and switch of sorts, or they would make a mockery out of the situation. That's not what we got. And I was kind of surprised that we got the actual footage. And it sounds like, or at least what we saw, is exactly what CM Punk said in his interview with Ariel Helwani. How did you interpret this segment? Because I know it's being talked about a lot on the internet.
Yeah, this wasn't a bait and switch, and I applaud them for that. However, it wasn't what I expected. I wasn't expecting any closed circuit TV, security footage or anything like that. I mean, in my mind, when I hear that there's backstage footage, I'm thinking, okay, this is the biggest show that AEW has ever produced. You're saying that there are no production teams doing a behind the scenes look at people getting ready, or the day of the show, something you can release at a later date to kind of, again, content is king in 2024. And this would have been a huge opportunity for AEW, especially because they're, they're the one major wrestling promotion that's still putting out DVDs or Blu-rays of their events, that they could have added some of this footage. So I'm thinking something a little bit more along those lines, like a behind the curtain look. But this was exactly what it was. It was an extremely petty move in response to the CM Punk interview, I think. This does nothing to add to that Young Bucks FTR rivalry, because this is the 4th time that they're going to be wrestling each other. So the history is already there. But to have tried to shoehorn in using this footage because somebody who works for another company that does not work for you anymore, that you allegedly fired for this incident, which, I mean, again, if you're going to assault a coworker, that should be grounds for termination. That's just my opinion.
Especially when you have 2 contracts with one company and one of them's like
Yes.
an advisory role.
Yes. Yeah, that is, not necessarily like, he's not necessarily management, but he's like, assistant to the regional manager, and it's that, yeah, like it just, I don't know. It didn't need to be. It was petty. It did nothing to add to the feud. Congratulations. They got the rating that Tony could tweet out. But like I said on our show, okay, how many more pay-per-view buys have you done between Wednesday and today at 12:10 as we're doing this? Because if there was a spike in them as a result of airing that footage for this match that they're trying to build, then he would have said something about it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, listen, people, I've been with AEW since the beginning. I bought every single pay-per-view. There was a time
I was at that first. I was at the first All In or All Out. Yeah, I was at All Out World Title. Jericho Page. Yeah, I was there.
Oh wait, I was there too.
Yeah.
The amount of times we've probably crossed paths and we just did not know each other, but hey, the internet brought us together, I guess. I still don't remember how I found you guys. Were we mutuals on X? Is that how I found you, or was I on YouTube?
I think so. Yeah. No, I think it was a mutual thing. We just either that or my TikTok. One of the two.
Yeah, that could have been it too. But I saw you guys grind, and I'm like, those guys look like us. And when I tell you, me and Mr. Cincinnati are 2 peas in a pod, and Ian and the podcast
it's pretty scary.
Yeah, they're on par with each other. And now we got Tuck too, who's just recently returned to the podcast world, and he's a dad just like the podcast dad. I mean, vibes are immaculate.
#team no kids.
Yeah, that's right. Acknowledge us in the chat, please. But yeah, the reason I preface all that I'm a fan of AEW is because what I'm about to say is probably going to ruffle some feathers, but that was fucking stupid. Like you said, let's just be honest. Like you said, that is going to advance no storyline whatsoever. You essentially are creating a storyline for one of the top stars in your opponent. With the WWE. I don't call them really a legitimate opponent because it's not a competition, it's an alternative. But nonetheless, I would understand why you would use this footage maybe a couple weeks after the incident and incorporate that into the storyline. But as you heard, people were chanting CM Punk during this footage. There was no audio in this footage, which I think is another big miss because we really can't say who's in the right and who's in the wrong in this situation. It's all speculation at this point from what CM Punk's saying, Jack Perry. But nonetheless, it just had an awkward feel to it. I don't know why they decided to go through with it. And if anything, I'm less interested now in AEW than I was before. And I don't think that's the mission that, they wanted to see coming out of this segment.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the one positive that has come out of this is that Jack Perry's scapegoat shirt, those sales have skyrocketed. So, okay, Jack's, making a little bit of money off of this, which is, cool. Good for him. I'm still curious to see when he actually gets brought back to AEW because, we had heard that Tony Khan hadn't talked to Jack Perry since that incident and that there had been a lot of no contact. I don't know if that's still the case now. But it just seems like from what we saw at this point, Jack Perry's still exiled from AEW. CM Punk is now in WWE. He was terminated for cause. In Jack Perry's case, the punishment doesn't fit the crime. Like, not at all. I mean, he hasn't been on AEW TV in 8 months. And, I could, if this is a repackaging of this character to give him a little edge that he desperately needed during this heel turn, I mean, great. There was a way to reinvent Jack Perry using this incident, but I think they're about eight months too late in using that footage to try to create that additional layer to his character. I mean, and I said this on our show yesterday, Collision's here tonight, and it didn't do anything to create any additional interest in me wanting to go check this out. Like I will watch this when it is on demand tomorrow. But
they're also
like
doing Battle of the Belts tonight too.
They are, yeah.
It would have been a great show probably to go to, but like you said, it's like, where's the interest in purchasing the ticket to support the company right now? It's just like,
I mean, I'll support them. I'll watch the show, but like, I would rather just watch it on TV. I actually am also doing karaoke tonight, so.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. I'm trying to get
It's
some
fun.
plans
It's
for
gonna be fun,
myself tonight. I don't know what I'm doing. That's why I was like, hey, you want to do a mixer? I got nothing else going on. Might as well talk about it.
right?
But yeah, I don't want to harp on this too much. I'm just gonna say it was absolute failure. I don't know why
Yeah,
they did that. But like you said with Jack Perry, we saw last night there was a show in Chicago. I believe it was for New Japan. That he had a match. He came out with the scapegoat stuff, the Chicago flag. And yes, there is some positives that can come out of this. He can use this for his character, but I don't think you want to lean into the CM Punk of it all because the guy's not even in your company.
yeah.
Like if you're
There's no
making a new
payoff.
gimmick based off of somebody in the rival company, why are we doing that? But I still feel like he's going to come out a bigger star, and there's something that could happen maybe with the Elite. I think where you see Jack Perry maybe eventually join the EVPs. I think that would
Yeah,
be compelling.
yeah. I feel like the podcast dad might have alluded to something like that earlier this week too, and I wouldn't hate the idea. Um, especially with kind of this general snottiness that we're seeing from them now. I mean, I think that it would be an ideal fit and kind of a let's take you under our wing and kind of like, okay, like, the bad man can't hurt you anymore. That, they'll give off that kind of vibe. But yeah, I mean, I hope that, any metric that they can obtain from Dynasty that they do, because again, this was a calculated risk that, again, if it doesn't translate into dollars for this show or any additional interest in this show, what's it all been about? Especially because now the next day, anything related to that segment, that closed circuit footage is no longer in it. Their official YouTube
Yeah.
upload, that clip is not in there. And I'm not, I had heard rumblings that there might be, some European privacy laws that may be at issue there because again, this was an overseas show. But what was the point of, basically putting it out there, knowing that you have to just take it back anyway? It
Yeah.
just, I don't know.
That's the thing. Like, if you're going to do something like that, at least commit to it and stick it out and, take the backlash that's going to come from it. You knew what you were getting yourself into when you made that announcement that you were going to get
Yeah.
extra eyeballs. And, granted, it might not have translated to television views, but I guarantee you everybody was checking social media, seeing what was going
Yeah.
on. And everybody, and I mean everyone, shared their opinion on this situation.
Yeah.
So,
Rightfully
like, like
so.
well, like FTR said, the past is the past. Let's just move on. Let's just watch
Yeah.
good wrestling. And you would
Yeah.
think after the biggest wrestling weekend out of all the weekends that they would just put on a really good wrestling show because that's what AEW does well. Dynamite wasn't good. It just wasn't. Let's be real.
No. No,
And
it's like I feel like with a lot of their shows lately, it's kind of the fantasy booking just a fantasy book a lot of the matches, and I don't know if it's just because they have such a different roster from WWE or if that it's such a different presentation of how they prefer to do things. Is more of the like we have all these great wrestlers, we're just going to let them wrestle. There might be there are larger stories at play for some of these matches, but a lot of them just kind of go directionless, and maybe I'm just somebody that needs a little bit more story. That's I don't know.
I'm with you there. I've said it on our show multiple times that I need a good character. I need a good storyline to be invested. I love really good wrestling matches. There's a time and place for those. Hell, look at,
Yeah,
for example, in the WWE, Ricochet versus JD McDonough. A very
yeah,
good wrestling match. Did it have much story? No, but it still was entertaining. It has its time
yeah,
and its place. But, we talk about the loaded roster and all the great talent that they have. One of those big names being Will Ospreay. He had a little bit of an interview with Renee Paquette on the stage, and he alluded to the comments that Triple H had made on a Pat McAfee show the previous weekend. Granted, Triple H didn't definitely say, somebody's name. He didn't. You could make an educated guess onto who
yeah,
he was talking about. I still can't sit here and say definitively that he was referring to Will Ospreay, but nonetheless, they decided to use more of WWE's words and incorporate it onto their
yeah,
television screen. I'm not as mad about this because it is fair to have a rebuttal. I just think there is a time and place to have that rebuttal, and I'm not sure if putting it on your weekly television show is that time or place. I would have maybe liked for Will to say something on a podcast or just a random interview. I think that's when you
yeah.
can have that rebuttal, but he alluded to the grind comment and all that stuff. So, Mr. Cincinnati, what did we think about this segment here with him and Renee?
Yeah, I mean, I also don't have a problem with there being cheekiness when if you're going to clap back at something that has been said on social media. Like, it just is what it is. It's going to happen. I think, for me, it's more of, this is the same damn joke that we've heard for the last 20 years. There's nothing new about it. Like, we
Yeah.
know, yes, he married into the family. It is what it is. That's not new. So, I think that if you are going to clap back, let's be a little bit more creative than that. And I love, and again, I'm wearing the man's shirt right now. I'm just saying that, just if you are gonna do it, like, come with something different.
Yeah, and there's a lot of talk too, and a lot of chatter on social media is like, do we really think Will Ospreay wanted to do this, or was he just handed a prompt saying, "Hey, time to clap back here"? We don't know
I've
the
heard
answers
both,
to these
man.
questions.
I mean, I've heard that he showed up early to production to work through what he was gonna say, and that he had some input in it. I mean, it's, I don't know. I mean, we're never going to get the straight answer, but like I said, if you are going to do it, like, again, that particular one has been done to death. Like, I mean, Shawn Michaels has
Sleeping
done
with the
it to
boss's
Triple
daughter.
H. I
Yeah.
mean, like, yeah, it's just, there's nothing original about it. Is all. I mean, if you're going to do it, cool, whatever. I mean, it just, that perception of competition is good. As long as you're putting your focus into creating your product, then, if a good promo gives you the opportunity to do something like that, sure,
Yeah.
why not?
Yeah, and like you said, oh god, I just lost my train of thought. Sorry, it's early in the morning, but
It's okay.
yeah, I just didn't think we needed it. I'm not mad about this one like I am the other segment, but yeah, no, Will Ospreay, we know how talented he is. I think we all would agree that he's somebody that's not scared of the grind. You know how much he's
No.
traveled worldwide and
Yeah.
put on 5-star matches with just about everybody in the country, and he's one of the best talents. But another way of viewing this is like, why would you say that when you eventually know there is going to be a time and place where you are a free agent? The money situation might not be where it needs to be in AEW. And
Yeah.
what if Triple H is petty about this whole situation? Granted, I don't think he would, because you've
No.
seen all the talent that have ended up coming back. I mean, hell, look at
Yeah.
Alundra Blaze. She tossed the title into a trash can in
Yeah.
WCW, and then they end up bringing her back and then inducting her into the Hall of Fame. But it just doesn't seem like a smart move for his future, and that's just my
Yeah. I
opinion.
mean, sure. I mean, Triple H has been integral in a lot of these major returns to WWE. Bruno, Ultimate Warrior. I mean, the fact that he and CM Punk mended fences after the interview, the lawsuit, like, I mean, if that is possible, anything is possible at this point. And I'm trying to think, are there any other major names that we're kind of just waiting to, like, come back to the fold outside of CM Punk, and
You're talking about from AEW to
or
WWE.
like just in general? Yeah. Like, I think maybe the only other one I could think of is Mox, because of
I
how
see. I
he
don't think
left. I
that
mean,
one
that's
is. Yeah,
like, you
I
don't
don't
think
see
it like,
that.
are you saying you don't see it as one where he might go back, or one where it wasn't that fractured of a relationship?
A mixture of both. I mean, I just think
Okay.
he's an AEW guy now through and through. He's basically reinvented himself there. He's nothing like the Dean Ambrose we saw in WWE. He's a completely different guy. It's just he seems like a guy that would be loyal to his company. Maybe I'm wrong, because trust me, there is plenty of storylines that he could jump back into the
Yeah.
WWE that would be very compelling. But if there
Let
would
me
be
let me ask you
anybody,
this though.
yeah, go ahead.
When the Shield music hit, was there even a slight part of you that thought, "Oh
Yes,
shit, like, is Mox actually, like, wait, what?" Like, so
I
there,
think
like, so exactly that just that little sliver,
yeah.
yeah.
Never say never. I know, but there's
Oh,
a few other names in AEW though that I think would make the jump back. Miro's the first name that
yeah,
comes to mind. I don't know what he's doing in AEW. Actually, I do. The answer is nothing. He's
yeah,
he's not on our television screens. And yeah, I mean that pretty much it. Maybe Keith Lee, because what is
yeah.
he doing?
Malachi Black, Buddy Murphy, and then I think Starkman makes the move when his contract's up.
Yeah, he's
He would be
one
great
that,
in WWE.
as would Wardlow. I think
Yeah,
Wardlow would be a great fit in WWE, but then again, you get to that point where we're talking about with AEW, where it's such a crowded roster. It's like Some of these guys are going to get left out. But at least WWE has the benefit of sending guys to NXT. I mean, hell, look at the Final Testament making the jump to NXT. That's going to be
They're going to be great. That's where they did their best work. I mean, all of them. I mean, Cross, former NXT champion, AOP, former NXT tag team champions. They've got Paul Ellering in their corner again. Scarlett is getting a little bit more physical than she had during that first run. I think, I would like to see them position it more as the C show or the number 3 show as opposed to a developmental brand. Yeah, they're always going to have that aspect of it. But when you have some of these larger names like Final Testament, Gallows and Anderson, Natalya is going to be great for NXT, I think. So I'm hoping that that's a more permanent move for her. There's ways to use all 3 shows and to elevate and kind of send people away to reinvent, work on something new and in front of a smaller audience and get them back over. I mean, think about, Finn Balor, because he was the first like kind of big name to go back to NXT. I was like, oh shit, like this is okay. This is different. Never seen this before. And it worked because he's not the smiley, happy Irishman babyface anymore. And this was much better, and it's working for him with Judgment Day right now. And who knows? He's probably going to be mixing up with Damian for that world title at some point by the end of the year.
Ooh, I don't hate that. I think there's a lot of people going up against Damian Priest that would be very compelling. Obviously, we know main event Jey Uso is going to get the first crack. I would assume he's not going to win. You talk about Finn Balor. There's also Drew McIntyre. There's CM Punk. Hell, I don't know if you saw the backstage footage from the day that Priest cashed in, but Punk came up to him and he's like, "It's about time you got rid of that stupid briefcase." It's like I think that was all of our feelings there.
It's a good look for him. World title's a good look on him.
Yeah, I was very surprised, even though it should have been more obvious that we probably could have gotten a cash in. It felt like it wasn't a focus, so I think that was probably good that we weren't thinking about it.
Yeah, Pop H knows what he's doing.
Overall, I think we should, collectively as a whole, move on from anything that happened this week with AEW. Hopefully, they just get back to doing what they do well, and that's great in-ring professional wrestling. Hell, they have a great card coming up for AEW Dynasty, so hopefully they can get back on track next week. But let's pivot on over to Friday Night Smackdown. It was a very entertaining show. I wasn't live for the first hour. Thankfully, your text didn't spoil anything for me. I mean, there were tea leaves there. I almost was able to put it together, but I didn't see what we eventually are going to talk about coming. But let's start here with the 2 triple threat matches that we saw. At the beginning of the night, you saw LA Knight pick up a win against Bobby Lashley and Santos Escobar. And then in the main event, AJ Styles beat Kevin Owens. And who was the third participant in that one that I'm forgetting about? Bobby Lashley. No, we already said that one.
So Mysterio, Styles, and
Mysterio.
KO, yeah.
That's what it was. So the main event was great. I predicted these 2 guys coming out on top here. I thought, having this rematch from what we saw at WrestleMania, that was a matchup that not a lot of people were looking forward to, but I thought it exceeded expectations. We're going to be getting it again for the number 1 contendership. First off, what were your thoughts on these 2 triple threat matches, and how excited are you to see these guys running back?
Yeah, so I love this number 1 contendership format, whether it's a triple threat, fatal 4-way, have the winners face off. So I think what didn't make sense to me was Santos lost at WrestleMania. Why are you in this match? Yeah, Kevin Owens is a little bit different. Yes, he lost at WrestleMania triple threat, whatever, but it's Kevin Owens, so it's like he's always a threat to take a title off of anybody. But
and he
Santos
had a Tiger's title, so you should be able to get in that opportunity if you have a fake title.
Yeah, right. Is that all? Okay, so I can go cash this in right now for the real one, or okay, cool. Next. Yeah, I'll be back. I'll see you later. But these matches were cool. As far as the rematch we're getting with LA Knight and AJ Styles, I hope that everybody that did not like the idea of LA Knight versus AJ Styles at WrestleMania is breathing a collective sigh of relief here, because a lot of people wanted to see him in the United States title picture with Logan Paul, but here he is running it back with his WrestleMania opponent for a chance to go to Backlash for the world title. So I hope that, everybody's breathing a little bit easier right now. I like the idea of AJ Styles as a first opponent for Cody Rhodes. Love the idea of this. This is going to be, I mean, as far as just a one-off pay-per-view build with 3 weeks to go, AJ Styles is the guy for this. So I'm looking forward to this match. I'm hoping that Styles gets the win here because then they're knotted up and they can get one more out of it. Maybe we'll see these two in Money in the Bank in July. There's a lot to like about this as far as a short-term program. Two former Bullet Club members going up against it for the biggest prize in wrestling. Let's do it.
Yeah, and I think it justifies LA Knight's win at WrestleMania. There might have been people that didn't want LA Knight to win, but I think it makes a lot of sense when you were setting up this rematch for a couple weeks down the road for a shot at Cody Rhodes' title. Now, like you said, Styles can get that win back, and then eventually I'm sure we will get a grudge match. Maybe you can do that at a SummerSlam, or hell, you do it at a Clash at the Castle, because that's a couple months.
Let's save it for SummerSlam. Let's just have all the matches at SummerSlam.
I have a better idea. I have a better idea for LA Knight. We've talked about it too. We thought it could have been a possibility at WrestleMania, and I've even had people tweeting back to me, I want to see LA Knight versus Logan Paul. I think that's the matchup that we should get at SummerSlam for the U.S. title.
That'd be cool. That LA Knight pop in Detroit last year was insane.
They were in Detroit last night, and he got a big pop too. Detroit might be a city. Detroit Knight.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a ring to it. I can't even abbreviate it either. So
that's
there
fine.
goes that.
It's okay.
I should have gone to Detroit. I have a buddy that lives in Detroit. I could have gone to last night's show. It was actually a good one, but
it's a time, man.
Whatever. But nonetheless, we are going to get a good one next week with Styles and Knight. I think we both are predicting AJ Styles to face off against Cody Rhodes. And like you said, you can't go wrong with AJ Styles being the first opponent. He's not going to win, but when's the last time we saw a bad AJ Styles match? I can't tell you.
Yeah, especially with how he's saying that he's physically moving around these days, just generally sore all the time. Like it's he's gonna be one of those guys that we're gonna look back and just say we were spoiled. There's nobody like AJ Styles.
And there's, of course, going to be people like myself that would have wished maybe a couple years before we could have got AJ in a longer run of his prime, but he's still really good. He's accomplished, I think, pretty much everything the WWE, right? I don't know if he's a Grand Slam, but I don't think he's won the IC title, but he's won.
Yeah. I mean, it's a Hall of Fame career there. I mean, and it's hard to believe it's only been 8 years. It feels like no time at all, but then also feels like he's been around forever,
I'll never forget that Royal Rumble debut. Everybody's like sitting there waiting, and then you see Phenomenal come up on the Tron. Oh, what a moment that was, Mr. Cincinnati.
Right.
Man, wrestling's great.
We just appreciate good moments, That's the thing is like you kind of feel like you're in the good old days. You wish you knew when you were in the good old days. Like moments like those are like the ones that are like, it's cool to be like a part of that.
For sure. And you know how I know that we are in the good old days? I got random jamokes that don't watch wrestling texting me and asking me, so I've been hearing about this storyline. Oh, The Rock's been doing this and that. Oh, Cody Rhodes finished the story. I'm like, you fuckers were hating on this shit a couple of years ago, but now you're interested. I'm telling you, man, it's a great time to be a wrestling fan.
It really is. It just, man, wrestling is the best. And when everybody just kind of sits back and just enjoys it for what it is, it's not to say that you can't be critical, just be constructively critical about it. Like it's pretty easy concept.
Yeah. Let's just enjoy all of professional wrestling. And if you enjoy pro wrestling and you love what we're doing here at the Main Event Network, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. We got to get our numbers up on YouTube. I think we're only still in the 30s, but this is the only live YouTube exclusive show here on the network. You got to be following us on the socials to find out when we're going to be doing episodes because it's sporadic. I think I'm usually the one that will spark the conversation, but I tell you what, there's going to be some times maybe where Mr. Cincinnati's like, hey, I need to get some shit off my chest. Let's do a mix.
Exactly. I mean, we plan this with what, a day or two? No, it was just like, you guys just want to do it. It's like, okay, sure. I got nothing going on
last night. Yeah, we got nothing better to do. We don't got kids like those other jabronis that we hang out with. Did I say that on the air? Are they watching?
You did say that on the. It's even if they are. Hi, Chris.
Yeah. Hi, Tuck. Hi, Ian. Ian doesn't want to hang out with me anymore. I invited him to go bowling tonight, and he didn't.
He barely answers in the damn group chat either.
He acts like he's so busy, and I think he's just, he's relatively, young still, and he's just getting into the real world work grind and everything. And I remember my first couple years. I don't know if you were like this too, but I was like, man, is this really what life is now? Is just working 5 days a week?
I just have one question for Ian, and I'm gonna make sure I look into the camera for this. Think you're better than me? That it? Because you're not. I'm just kidding. He is.
No, he's not. I saw that clip that you guys ran on the Junkies podcast. His moment was my second favorite WrestleMania moment. That was a good choice by him. Kofi Mania.
It still doesn't beat HBK Taker 1. It just doesn't.
Damn, I wish I was a fan around that time. I missed the boat on that, but I mean, obviously I have watched it. But
yeah,
I think that was 2 WrestleManias before I started watching because my first one was 28.
Okay, I like it.
So some other exciting things went down last night on SmackDown. A lot of us didn't see this one coming. You know, I talked about it on X. I said, just when you thought the Bloodline story was over, we are only in the 5th inning. We are just getting over the hump. We have a segment with Solo Sikoa, Jimmy Uso, and the wise man Paul Heyman. And they talked about how losses have consequences. Solo Sikoa would approach his brother Jimmy, embrace in a hug that would turn into a surprise attack in the WWE debut of Tama Tonga. We saw a couple months ago the rumors of him potentially coming to WWE. People speculated, will he align with his Bullet Club buddy AJ Styles or Finn Balor? No, it looks like he's going to be inserted here into the Bloodline storyline, which is very compelling because we come out of this question with a lot more questions than answers. I know you were watching when this happened live because this is when you sent that text and you brought up Bloodline Civil War. I know you mentioned something like this before on past shows, so tell me a little bit about how you're feeling about the addition of Tama Tonga here in the Bloodline story.
So not just Bloodline Civil War, but I specifically want Bloodline Civil War games. Bloodline War Games needs to be the end game here for this story. This is bloody brilliant. I like that we got this surprise debut tonight because I think that we felt slightly let down that there wasn't a whole lot as far as like major surprises to end Raw Monday night. I mean, we saw Ilya, we saw Roxanne. Like those are great as far as, you know, to have them exposed to the roster, knowing that the draft is coming up. But we're usually expecting after WrestleMania that there's going to be somebody new coming into the fold. And this was the perfect way to do it. This is the perfect addition. The way that they wrote Jimmy off of TV, it sounds like he's not going to be around for a while. Jay's going to be occupied on Raw with Drew McIntyre, possibly Rollins, possibly Punk, just kind of that world title scene in general. Yeah. So he's doing just fine over there. But this is the perfect time to see what we have with Solo. Roman Reigns, this also makes it clear that Roman's not coming back anytime soon either, because at the end, he takes that phone, steps on it. That's kind of the clearest indication that, you know what, this has nothing to do with the tribal chief. And he's basically Solo is just like, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and claim this now, because even though, yes, he got put through an announce table with an AA at WrestleMania, he didn't lose at WrestleMania. Jimmy lost. Yeah. Roman lost. Like if that's how this, Samoan dynasty operates, of you lost, okay, now somebody else steps up. It's very very Black Panther-esque. I will say when it comes to Solo, I don't want to see Solo Sikoa lose another match at all in 2024. If it's at all possible, this is his time. This is his opportunity. They did nothing with the Cena win. I mean, the only follow-up was what happened at WrestleMania. So I'm hoping that this is the start of a just sizable run for not only Solo, but Tama Tonga as well. I see these guys more going for the tag team gold as opposed to either of them going for Logan Paul or Cody Rhodes right away. I think it's kind of let's get Tama Tonga exposed to the more casual mainstream WWE audience first, and using Solo to do that. I think that they will slowly bring the wise man along, and he will have no choice but to acquiesce and provide that counsel to these guys. And I think that that's the right way to play it. because that's how the first incarnation of the bloodline started. Was it, you had to kind of get everybody in line to go along with it, especially I think it was Jay first, then Jimmy, and it just like, let's put it back together that way as well. We still have Jacob Fatu, potentially lingering out there. I would imagine that because Jimmy has been written off TV, that the Usos will reunite sooner than later. Roman, I would say, will likely be back at some point, and Rock probably will by the time War Games comes around too.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things that could come out of this. And you talked about potentially the end game being War Games. I love that idea. I think it's brilliant. And I think we have plenty of time to get to that point because Tama Tonga did say these are orders from the tribal chief. Granted, I'm not sure which tribal chief we may be talking about. You know, there's talks of Solo being the heir to the throne. Is he the tribal chief now? Could it be The Rock pulling strings against Roman Reigns to create a sort of division amongst the bloodline? And then you incorporate Jacob Fatu into this story as well. And like you said, it's too that you have the Usos who are eventually going to reunite. Like that moment in itself is going to be a pop, like similar to what we saw when Sami Zayn turned on Roman Reigns or when Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn reunited. That's what we're going to get. And I think the podcast dad is one of the people that said it, that you might as well just put the Usos back together. I think now we are getting to that point, and eventually, you talked about it, you could have the tag team of Tama Tonga and Solo Sikoa. Just imagine doing at SummerSlam the Usos versus Solo and Tama. That right there and then. And you still have The Rock versus Cody Rhodes that could happen. Roman Reigns maybe versus Seth Rollins. LA Knight versus Logan Paul. And these are just the men's matches. Just think of how much good stuff they could have at SummerSlam this year. Or hell, even at Clash the Castle, there's just so much exciting things that can come out of this.
Yeah, I mean, think about Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. That was a great win for them last night against Chelsea and Piper Niven. That, I mean, they need to be the ones that dethrone the Kabuki Warriors. They just do. Facts. Like I need to see them with those tag titles. Like Bianca, like as awesome as Bianca is, I think the singles run was getting stale without without a heel turn. Like they needed to do something to freshen it up. But I think that putting her in the tag team division right now and giving that credibility of the EST, here for it.
And then eventually, I think we all could assume that they're going to have their one-on-one feud. I don't know who would be the heel in that situation, or if you even need either one of them to be a heel, and you just say, hey, these are the two most athletic women on our roster. Let them do their thing.
Straight powerhouse,
would be great. I wouldn't complain. But, we know more stuff from the WWE women's division is Bayley got to have her moment on SmackDown. By the way, hate her new theme song, Death Rebel. I don't know what, man. They just keep getting worse somehow.
Bronze is straight garbage. Like that. Like, why did you get rid of that?
Too. It was so
that's
good.
That's like 1980s WWE. Like that's what I would expect Rick and Scott to come out to in the late 80s, early 90s. Like, not Braun.
Enough about the theme songs. At least we know now we are going to get Bayley versus Naomi. She said she owed somebody an opportunity. Tiffany Stratton came out and interrupted. She ended up losing that match to Naomi. I'm not too worried about Tiffany picking up losses to start off her run on the main roster. I think it's inevitable that she's going to become World Heavyweight Champion probably this year. I don't think that's crazy to assume because she could be a prime candidate for a Money in the Bank opportunity.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And even with this Bayley Naomi match next week, I mean, this is babyface. So I would imagine Tiffany will have some interference in this match. I think I would like to see these three go at it triple threat in France.
Oh yeah, I just load up the France card with really good matches. I don't care if it's predictable. Because usually WrestleMania Backlash is, you stay with the status quo because there's a lot of changes that happen at WrestleMania. But Tiffany Stratton versus Bayley versus Naomi, I have no issues with that whatsoever. And then you still can set up Bianca and Jade to take on the Kabuki Warriors, and you flip the titles right there and then.
See, that's... And I don't know, maybe because my thing was if the Kabuki Warriors were going to take these titles, I wanted to see them have a dominant run. This run just hasn't been the greatest. So, like, on one hand, I still want them to try to, like, fix it. But at the same time, all right, if we are going to do another title change, it's like, okay, let's really make this one stick this time. Let's make this a good one.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be a pretty good show, I think, in France. I like that they're having a noon start time here for us in the Central Time Zone, so 1 o'clock, I believe, for you guys.
Daytime
like
shows are the best, man.
Tuck said that's brunch and backlash right there.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So that's about all I had from the WWE and AEW, but I guess this is kind of AEW. Some big things happened last night elsewhere, and Jon Moxley won some gold. I think you want to talk a little bit about that. So tell me a little bit about it, because I wasn't too familiar what happened last night.
Yeah, so Jon Moxley is the new IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. I did not watch the full show yet, but just Cincinnati into Cincinnati, and congratulations, we get our haircut at the same place, so that's cool. And I heard the story that the one of the stylists said like didn't have any idea who Mox was, but so from what I heard about this conversation is as she's cutting his hair, just asking the kind of, what do you do, like, because it was the first time in there, and there was like this I'm a wrestler, and she's like, what, like WWE, and he's like, yeah, exactly like that.
So, yeah, I was on there once.
Yeah, but no, it's just cool that Mox, continues to reinvent himself. We talked about this before we went live. Like, I mean, this has probably been the best run of his career so far. And dude, I mean, one of the few people that can say he's been AEW champion, WWE champion, and IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. I mean, that's rarefied air.
That is a big deal. So yeah, like you said, best run for Jon Moxley so far in his career. I would agree with you there. Congrats to him for winning some gold once again. But there was another interesting, I forgot who was the other person, but Cody talked about it last night that there's only 2 people to hold the WWE World Championship and the NWA Championship. Oh, it was AJ Styles, I think. AJ Styles is probably the guy. He said there's only 2 people to ever do it, and I think it was AJ Styles. I could be wrong on that. I don't know if anybody in the comments knows what I'm talking about, but I'm just rambling at this point because we are reaching the end of Main Event Mixer episode 7. Mr. Cincinnati, once again, thank you for joining me. You got any final remarks before we sign off?
Yeah, make sure to follow at Junkies Pod. Join our community. We just love talking wrestling with good people. So yeah, hope to see you in the chats. We'll be back Monday at 6:30 with our fresh batch of episodes for the week. Yeah, let's just be cool to everybody.
Yeah, we're all gonna move on. So last you're gonna hear about the AEW bullcrap that was happening this Wednesday on Dynamite. I promise you guys that. At least from us. I can't guarantee you everybody else in the network's gonna oblige.
We're gonna do our best, but shit happens.
Yeah, we all move on. So yeah, like you said, make sure you're following the Junkies Pod on all the socials. You see right there on the screen. Give my show a follow as well, at Pod on the Mark on all social media accounts. We are live usually every Thursday, and I believe next week we are going to be talking about AEW Dynasty that is happening next weekend. But also don't forget, check out all the Main Event Network stuff on the socials at mainevent_net, so you can keep up with all the stuff that we have going on, and go to the onthemarkwrestlingpodcast.com if you would like to support the network. Get yourself some merch. We got some cool retro designs as well, so definitely check that out. And yeah, guys, appreciate you all checking us out, and we will talk to you next time on Main Event Mixer, Episode 8.
Cheers.